Hey guys, Ken here, Backpacking Light. Finally back, and what I can say is after 4 years of use, I just realized I've never done a review of the Tarptent Stratospire. Now this isn't the new one. In fact, I haven't even tested the new one yet, so I can't tell you if it's better or worse than the new one. All I can do is give you my impression of the older one. And this one I got when Tarptent was more or less starting to produce the Stratospire. And it's been one of my favorite tents ever since. And for so many different reasons, and hopefully I'll get to them here. This setup with the solid inner tent, seam sealed, weighs just under 1 kilo. The mesh, I believe, weighs at about 900 grams. I could be wrong. Maybe the newer ones are a little lighter. I think there were a few, I don't know, I think 100 grams lighter. So there is that. So there you have it. Just a setup of the Tarptent Stratospire. What you'll notice first off is how big it is. The footprint on this thing is just massive. And usually, in fact, they usually say that the footprint is about the equivalent of 2 Hilleberry Inn set up beside each other. It's just such a big tent. I mean, of course, that's a bit of an exaggeration, hyperbolic at its best, but it still gives you a good impression of just how big the tent is. I've had this tent in pretty much any imaginable weather, wind, and it's held up to everything. Granted, I haven't used it in heavy snowfall and in the winter. And that's because of one of the major downsides of this tent, to me anyway, is that it's very tent peg intensive. As you can see, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 tent pegs to set it up. And it's hard to do it with less than 8. So keep that in mind. It's also because of the struts. Now I think they did change that on the newer model. But the struts, they can be taken out, but you wouldn't really want to, as that adds like an extra 5 minutes of your setup time. And in the end, it's just not worth it. So usually I keep the struts in there. I should say, not usually, always I keep the struts in, as it also gives me a guideline when I'm packing it up and putting it in a stuff sack. The Stratospire one, as I've said, is a very big tent. And it's got those 2 big vestibules on each side, and with the 2 entryways as well, 2 entry and exit. And it's not unusual for people who have dogs that the dogs will sleep in one of the vestibules. And if you're one of those people that feels that your dog needs a bug net as well, they sell a separate bug net for the Stratospire called the Sidecar. So this is with one side completely open, and as you can see, maybe you can't see, but it's quite big. I'm sitting all the way up and there's plenty of room. So me lifting my head up quite a bit, which is about how I sleep actually. And you can see outside here a nice big vestibule back to me. And this is that extra large, thick sleeping pad in here. So I would say that somebody probably a few centimeters taller than me would do just fine in this tent. Of course, if you're shorter, then it's going to be far better. So this is the one vestibule here, and there are two vestibules. And as you can see, I've got my foot leg fully extended there. And it's just a very big, spacious vestibule. And maximum comfort, minimal weight is how I like it. And you've got another one over here, vestibule of course. There you go. One more, and I've got it kind of open. You can see looking out over the beautiful river there. So I'll sleep with my tent like this a lot of the times, just because I like that ventilation that it gives me, that extra amount. So the Stratospire is kind of built to be a mountain shelter, and because of that, the ventilation is a lot more constrained than it would be on, say, a forest tent, something like the Z-Packs, which are meant to have a lot of ventilation. This one, the Z-Packs, or I should say, the Tarptent Stratospire is built for the mountains. So if you want that extra ventilation, I do suggest like opening up the zipper like I have it here. And I'll do that on just about any trip that I'm on, just because I like that extra air, basically. So yeah, there's not really much more to say about the Z-Pack, or there's not really much more to say about the Tarptent Stratospire. It's just such a fantastic tent, and one that I always reach for unless I'm forced to try other tents. It's been my go-to tent for a very long time, long before I actually had Backpacking Light. If you want a lot of space, this is an excellent tent. But if you want a smaller footprint, then you'd probably want to go with something like the Notch, or even the Hilleberg Innon, which is a far smaller footprint, which sometimes is to be preferred. Because this tent is so big, it can be hard to find a good camp spot from time to time. But with that said, the positives of this tent far outweigh the negatives. And I know, like, one of the things I don't even mention in this review really is how it's set up, as it's got the diagonal pulls. They were the originators of that, and now you've got, you know, of course, a lot of different companies copying that part of the design. But this Stratospire is still, in my opinion, the best, I guess, the non-parallel tent pole setup tents, as it just offers a lot more weight, or a lot more room and stability for the weight. So yeah, the Tarptent Stratospire 1. I hope you liked the review. Leave a comment on the comment section, and don't forget to subscribe. Cheers.